New Void Lord revealed. The biggest villain you never heard of. Invalidus? Who the hell is this? And what is Doran, the teller of truths, trying to tell us today? Let's see what he has to say.
So the new Chronicle book was just released, recapping the past 5 expansions, and they just casually dropped the name of yet another Void Lord. So far, we know for a fact multiple exist. We heard of Dimensius, the Old Devouring, the Master of Xalatat, and the one that is after Azeroth, but we just learned about a guy called Invalidus as well. We actually saw a small glimpse of him back in Worlds of Draenor, and check this out. He was around Oshagun,
Timmy 2 Guy, thank you for the follow. Welcome to our Scourge.
An Naru ship that functioned as a crystal that had a Naru inside that was changing into the void. Sounds pretty similar to the War Within and what is currently going on with the mysterious crystal called Beledar and the Void Cycle. So who is Invalidus? Is he working together with Dimensius? Are they rivals? And is this going to be one of the main villains in the near future? If you guys want to buy Total War, Elder Scrolls, or any other game, you can get them at great prices with my Gamivo link. You can also get anything Warcraft related, gift cards and software, and all below market prices. Best of all, if you add my code DORON, you can get an even bigger
There it is,
discount.
use the man's
so
code.
Make sure to check out my link in the description and get some amazing deals with Gamivo. If you've been following the lore for a while, you might know that after the defeat of Sargeras, the Void Lords are really the true villains of the Warcraft universe. They're the new big bad that we currently have. We've known for a fact that there are multiple Void Lords, but we never really knew the names of any of them other than Dimensius until we had just learned about a brand...
Aren't Void Lords a form of elemental? No. No, they're from the Void. That's a completely different plane of existence than nature, which is where the elementals come from. They look like elementals, you know, like the fire was, but that's just a design thing. I don't think that has anything to do with the relation to it.
New Void Lords. So, the Void Lords in general are a very tricky bunch. They were said to be jealous of the power of the Titans, but not because they're not as powerful as the Titans, but because they can't manifest their power in the material plane. For that, they need a source. They live within the Void plane of existence, and it is likely that within that plane, they may be as powerful, if not more powerful, than the Titans. Now, the new Chronicle book just came out, and we got some really...
Yeah, Void Lords are more powerful than the Titans, for sure. I would say that's a guarantee. But yeah, their main weakness is they are so powerful that they can't manifest themselves. Until somebody like Xalatath shows up that basically makes everything so perfect and so ready that someone like Dimensius is able to manifest in our plane.
Interesting information. So at this point, it's pretty certain what they're trying to do with Azeroth. It's either to summon themselves or to raise a new void creature from Azeroth's world soul, because as I stated, they need a power source. Interestingly enough, in Chronicle 4, Blizzard has changed the narrative in the book. They didn't say that Azeroth is going to awaken as a Titan, but that it can awaken as a Titan or as a void creature. This almost essentially confirms what we had previously believed. Azeroth is a world soul, elemental in nature, and it can essentially be swayed whatever way you want it to go. So if you pump it up with all the magic, it's going to be born as a Titan. If you pump it up with the void, like the Black Empire has been doing, they might become a Void Lord. Interesting enough, they stated it can be born as a creature of the void. They're no longer talking about a Void Titan that they had previously believed.
And then I wonder, though, what happened to the ethereal homeworld soul? Because we know Dimensius did get to it, but did he just devour it, or did it become something else? I don't think that's ever been established.
Is essentially a soft confirmation that Azeroth is not really a Titan. I mean, it can be a Titan, but it could also be a Void creature, or maybe even a Death God, or maybe something entirely different. So as I said, it seems like Azeroth is this neutral power source that can be swayed depending on the influence of the cosmological force that is invading the planet. Now, when it comes to the actual Void Lord information, we had just learned about a brand new Void Lord. The second one named in the lore, and that is Invalidus. So the information itself comes from the recap of Worlds of Draenor and the events we had seen. Essentially, it's about Oshagun and the fallen Naru that is inside. Cho'Gall was searching for a void fallen Naru as they turn into void beings when they're injured, and he employed the Pale Orcs in order to be able to enter. At the same time, War Song Shamans were using their power to channel void portals from the Twisting Nether in order to feed the Void Lord Invalidus. Now, if you
I
may
didn't know any of
remember
the story.
Warlords of Draenor, this was literally a tiny mob we faced and we fought him off, and you might think they didn't really mean this, it's just one of those Voidwalker types that the Warlock summon. People stated that the Void Lords were not in capital letters, which might mean that they're not really referring to the guys, the big guys. However, we can actually see actual Void Lords referred to in the same manner in the past, like Dimensius the Old Devouring. Remember
Right.
Dimensius? I mean, he was also a tiny little mob we defeated back in the Burning Crusade on Outland. Also, just a Void Lord mob that was recently confirmed to be the Master of Zelatet. He was also said to be the one that is hell-bent on awakening Azeroth, and it is also the guy that destroyed the planet Kardesh. Remember what Zelda told us when she was in the dagger? You had only seen the faintest echoes of the Void Lords. You
Yeah.
can't even imagine their true power. Remember, Void Lords, not the echoes of a single
Yeah.
Void Lord. By the time she was given...
Right, I mean, we did fight Demancius, but we fought just like a shade of him or like a piece. It wasn't... Again, he couldn't manifest in our plane, that's the thing. So when Zalatet's talking about we can't even imagine, the truth is we can't. We have never seen it. We've only seen tiny little pieces of what a Void Lord can truly be.
us this hint, we could
Good,
already
Elena,
see
how are
both
you?
Dimensius and Invalidus in the game. The thing is, like, these Void Lords are able to summon themselves in these tiny forms, like, akin to minions.
Yeah.
It's very similar to the avatar of Sergeras that you might know was defeated by a single
Jaina.
powerful mage on Azeroth, while the real Sergeras in full power could split a planet in half with one single swing. So, just because this guy was a mob, it doesn't really mean much. However, there is something much more interesting, and that is that this Void Lord came to Oshogun. Check this out. Oshogun is actually a Naru ship named Ganadar.
Yeah, very much. This crystal, again, is very much like the Hallowfall crystal, which was why I've always said, oh, it's probably like a Crash Naru ship, which seems to be confirmed. It's the Belladar at this point or something, or Genadar. I forgot what the new one's called in Hallowfall. But there's always a Naru inside, and it shifts, right?
A Naru ship
Makes
named
sense.
Ganadar. A light ship and technically a crystal. The Naru inside, as he was damaged, started shifting into the void, which would essentially transform this crystal. Does this sound like something similar we're seeing right now?
exactly.
In Hellfall, we got a gigantic light crystal called Belladar that also very recently started shifting into the void, and now we learn that suddenly the Void Lord Dimensius the Old Devouring is trying to get his hands on this. It really seems like the Void
Kind of a common story thread, right? It seems like this is what happens every time one of these Naru are found, that the Void Lords try to get to it.
Lords are opportunistic, and when these occasions arise for the Naru to turn, they try to capitalize on it. Remember what Zelda also said, the Naru are our long-lost brethren, and they just kinda rebelled. Soon they will return back to the fold. It was previously stated that the light and the void are two sides of the same coin, so there is definitely some sort of an inherent connection between the Void Lords and the Naru, and we're going to learn about it soon. We still, of course, don't know what exactly Belladar is, but it is very possible that it is in fact a Naru ship. I mean, just the naming convention makes sense. All the Naru ships are named like this: Xenedar, Genedar, Exodar. It's also very likely now that in this alternate timeline, the Void Lord and Invalidus were trying to do a similar thing and was stopped, and we stopped an invasion, and we didn't even know what was going on, as this was a much smaller scale invasion. However, here's a very interesting thing though that Blizzard had previously set up. Void Lords, as inherently chaotic beings, were hinted to not at all be working together, very similar to the old gods. So while some of them might band together, they might not be working on the same goal. It is entirely possible that Invalidus and Dimensius could be rivals, might even be at war with each other, might hate each other. At the
Interesting.
same time, they could be best friends, they could also be working together. Recent beta information.
And one thing about the Void is they don't always seem to be aligned. Like, if you don't know, the old gods, the ones that we know of on Azeroth, they kind of disassociated with the Void a little bit. Like, they were sent out with the purpose of preparing the planet, or kind of doing what Zalatet's doing, being harbingers, for the Void Lords to eventually come and devour it, or change its world soul, whatever. But they kind of took a path, Nazath and the rest of them, where they just enjoyed kind of being gods of the planet. So they kind of stopped doing what they were supposed to. And I don't know if that's, typical of the Void, but it just seems like they are less organized, army or whatever than the Titans. Whereas the Titans are very orderly. Everyone's got their jobs and they're doing it unless they kind of break away from that, which we're seeing with the Earthen. But for the most part, the Titans are very much aligned, besides Sargeras. While the Void seems to be everyone's doing their own thing. That's what it seemed like a lot of the time.
confirmed that Dimensius the All-Devouring is the one that is
Yes,
behind Zalatat.
their hunger is
very
never-ending,
likely
though.
the
That's
one most interested in Azeroth. It was also confirmed that Alleria is getting whispers directly from the Void Lords as well. As far as we know, she might not be hearing Dimensius, but she may be hearing Invalidus or some other guy that we're going to soon learn about. However, seeing that Azeroth is a really big deal and a supreme power source that everyone and their mother is after, I do feel like the Void Lords, at least a few of them, might actually unite for this goal, as it would really be a gigantic victory for the Void Realm in general. So very likely we could be seeing Dimensius and Invalidus working together and possibly as bosses in Midnight, but not as these like tiny minions, but actually very powerful guys. Also, from the recent Chronicle lore, it seems like the goal is, as is stated, to create a void creature, so this awakening would ultimately serve to create potentially a new Void Lord, like Azeroth would turn into a Void Lord. It doesn't really seem like the Titans and the Void Lords are really all that different, like wandering the universe and trying to convert these power sources to...
They're all trying to convert whatever they find onto their side. They're basically recruiting the entire time, trying to bring the biggest and baddest weapons to their side of the battle.
Right. The main difference is that the Titans can kind of just like barge in, while the Void Lords need to send their minions, the old gods, and a whole bunch of others so that they can set the ground, so that they can start summoning themselves. And as we had seen, they do summon themselves. I mean, we ran into both Dimensius and Invalidus. This might be exactly why the Void Lords are jealous of the Titans' powers, as it takes them much longer to summon themselves, but I do feel like their full power potential is at a similar level, and we're going to be very likely see Invalidus soon. Thanks for watching. Check out the light on the damper by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on ancient cleaning on the second channel by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.
Pretty good video. Interesting about that Invictus, or whatever the hell, Invalidus as he called him, his name. What his role is going forward, we have no idea. That's the cool thing about the Void, though. We know so much, and yet we know so little. Is it going to be Damascius? What's Zalatet up to? Who's the fifth old god? So many questions that'll probably be answered in the World Soul Saga, which is why I'm very excited for the lore that's coming forward.